How are you, friends? In 2015, an ambitious doctor named Sergio Canavero attempted a groundbreaking procedure that was considered impossible by the medical community at the time. He sought to perform the first successful human head transplant, which he described as head-body transplantation, or hemorrhage, where the head of a person suffering from a debilitating disease would be attached to the body of a donor. This idea, which at first seemed like science fiction, sparked significant controversy and intense debates in the medical field. The patient he found, Valery Spiridonov, was suffering from a severe and progressive disease called Verdnig-Hoffmann disease, a form of spinal muscular atrophy that left him unable to move or even breathe on his own. Valery's condition deteriorated day by day, making him an ideal candidate for Canavero's daring experiment, as he believed this procedure could potentially give him a new chance at life. The idea of head transplants has fascinated medical scientists for decades. However, many believed it to be an impossible task due to the challenges of connecting the nervous system, blood vessels, and spinal cord. Despite this, some scientists had previously experimented with transplanting heads in animals, such as the work of Dr. Vladimir Demikov in the 1950s, who performed successful head transplants in dogs. While these animals survived for short periods, the procedures were far from perfect, as the animals experienced severe complications and rejected the foreign tissues. In the 1970s, Dr. Robert White, a prominent neurosurgeon, conducted similar experiments with monkeys. While the monkeys survived the surgery for a period of time, they were essentially brain dead, as their spinal cords were never properly reconnected, leaving them unable to move or function. The idea of transplanting a human head was met with skepticism from both the public and the scientific community. There were significant challenges, including the complexity of reconnecting the spinal cord, nerves, and blood vessels. Furthermore, there was little hope that the body would accept the new head and the recipient's immune system would not reject the transplant. Despite these obstacles, Canavero remained confident that, with the right technology and techniques, the operation could be successful. He proposed using a combination of advanced technologies such as cutting-edge surgical techniques, specially developed methods for reconnecting the spinal cord, and immunosuppressive drugs to prevent the body from rejecting the transplant. In 2015, Canavero made an official announcement that he had found a willing patient and would soon begin preparations for the world's first head transplant. Valery Spiridonov, a 33-year-old man from Russia, volunteered to be the recipient of the transplant. Spiridonov had been living with a severe form of spinal muscular atrophy that left him unable to move or even perform basic functions without assistance. As his condition worsened, he felt that this experimental procedure offered him his only hope for survival. Despite the medical community's doubts and ethical concerns, Spiridonov was determined to proceed with the surgery. Canavero promised that the transplant would be a success and that Spiridonov would be able to regain function and live a relatively normal life, free from the constraints of his degenerative disease. Canavero's plan was to remove the head from Spiridonov's body and attach it to the body of a brain-dead donor. The surgery would require a team of over 100 specialists working together to carefully dissect and preserve the vital structures of both the head and the donor body. The spinal cord, blood vessels, and nerves would need to be carefully severed and then reconnected, a process that had never been done successfully in humans before. In order to prevent the rejection of the transplant, Canavero planned to use a combination of immunosuppressive drugs and techniques to minimize the risk of the body rejecting the new head. However, this bold plan raised numerous ethical and medical concerns. Many argued that it was impossible to reconnect the spinal cord, and that the patient would be left in a permanent vegetative state, unable to control their body. Others raised concerns about the ethics of performing such a controversial and risky procedure, especially considering that it had never been done successfully in animals. Furthermore, critics questioned whether it was ethical to perform such an experimental surgery on a patient who was already suffering from a life-threatening illness. Despite these concerns, Canavero continued to defend his plan, stating that the potential benefits outweighed the risks. and that it could revolutionize the way we think about the treatment of debilitating diseases. The world watched with bated breath as Canavero and his team prepared for the groundbreaking surgery. In 2017, Canavero performed a successful test on a human cadaver, demonstrating his ability to sever the head from the body and transplant it onto a new donor body. While this was a significant step forward in the development of the procedure, the real test would come when the transplant was performed on a living person. Despite the publicity surrounding the head transplant, Canavero faced numerous obstacles. He was criticized by many of his colleagues, some of whom argued that the procedure was nothing more than a publicity stunt. Others questioned the scientific basis of the surgery and the feasibility of connecting the spinal cord and nervous system. Moreover, Canavero faced significant legal and ethical challenges as the procedure raised questions about the nature of human identity, the ethics of transplanting a human head, and the potential consequences of such a groundbreaking surgery. As of now, the human head transplant has not yet been performed, and Canavero has not been able to find a willing donor or a hospital that would perform the surgery. However, the idea of head transplants remains a topic of intense debate and intrigue in the medical community. Canavero has continued to push forward with his research, and in 2022, he published a paper in a scientific journal claiming to have discovered new techniques that would make head transplants more feasible. These techniques include advanced methods for reconnecting the spinal cord, as well as new immunosuppressive drugs that could prevent the rejection of the transplant. Despite the controversy surrounding his work, Canavero believes that head transplants could become a reality in the near future. He argues that the procedure could offer a new lease on life for patients suffering from debilitating diseases, and that it could eventually be used to treat conditions like paralysis, spinal cord injuries, and even aging. However, many in the medical community remain skeptical, arguing that the procedure is still far from being a viable option for patients. In the future, it is possible that head transplants may become a part of medical science, but it is unlikely that they will become a routine procedure in the near future. The complexities of reconnecting the spinal cord and nervous system, along with the risk of rejection and other complications, make the procedure highly experimental and dangerous. Nonetheless, Canavero's work has sparked a global conversation about the future of medicine and the possibilities of human transplantation. As of now, the world is still waiting for the day when the first successful human head transplant will take place, and whether Canavero will be the one to make it a reality. Also, we invite you to share your thoughts with us. Have a nice day.